Hello and welcome to the Pod of the Damned. I'm your host Ian, and joining me finally, once again, he's back. The bitch is back. It's been a long time. I am joined by... No, nobody's been asking for you back, Nico. I'm joined by Nico. How is it going, buddy? Welcome back. I'm good. It's been... Fuck, what's it been? It's been like 5 weeks since you've been on the show. I know. I mean, we took a break. The show took a break for a few weeks there over sort of Halloween anyway, which we've done for the last couple of years now because that's a very busy time of the year for me and you, like in our actual work lives. So for the last couple of years we tend to take a break at that time of year anyway. But you've been so fucking busy that like we've been back for 2 weeks, and this is finally the first time we've actually been able to sit down and record. That's a, I thought you said actual work there. I thought you were going to say actual work there instead of sucking dick. Alright, Nico. That's why we're recording on a Saturday. Oh dear. Well, it's good to have you back. I'm sure the listeners and the viewers are probably sticking pins in their ears right now, but who gives a fuck? I know. They were like, why is he back? We told them, we voted that, I'm the funny one, but okay. So you've missed 2 episodes, Nico. So a couple of weeks ago, Anna was on the show and we talked about Five Nights at Freddy's. I don't know if you saw that yet. Not yet? Okay, well, I'll wait because... Yeah. No, I'm not asking if you'd listened to it. I'm just asking if you'd seen the movie, because if you'd seen the movie, then I could get a rating off of you. But if... Willy's Wonderland. Willy's Wonderland. I'm not gonna spoil anything for you. You know what? I was gonna say something there, but I'll let you. Yeah, I'll not. I have my thoughts. I said my thoughts in the episode, but I won't. I'll let you make. What, Willy's Wonderland? Yeah, Willy's Wonderland's much better. Put it this way: Five Nights at Freddy's currently sits in 81st place on the leaderboard. So there you go. And then last week, Candy from the House That Screams horror podcast, very, very good friend of the show, came on to talk about the 1980 cult classic Maniac. One of your favourites. Oh, that's good. Because I need a rating from you for that as well. Because me and Candy had to like drag that episode up. Like that episode's like 2 hours and 20 minutes long. Like we talked the fuck about that movie. But the critics' scores are like so fucking low that we gave it really, really high scores, and it's still only in 56th place on the leaderboard. What would you rate Maniac? Okay. Okay, give me a rating for our next recording for that. There's one other movie. There is one other movie on the leaderboard, Nico, that I don't have a rating for you from, and that's from an episode we did not long before we took a break, because me and Anna did an episode on Saw 10, because we saw that in the cinema, and I'm assuming you've not seen that yet either. Yeah, I thought that, but if you get to those movies at any point, feel free to come back on the show and give us your rating, but give us your rating for Maniac on the next episode. Okay, there you go. See, how about that? Anyways, we are a horror podcast, in case you didn't notice, that deep dives into a different topic every single week in our quest to create a leaderboard of the best and worst horror movies of all time. This is episode number 94, and despite us recording this on the 18th of November, this is actually our listener pick for the Halloween episode that we ended up being too busy to do. And in today's show, we are talking all about Terrifier 2. I'm sure we've got certain friends of the show who were on previous episodes that are just delighted that we're covering this movie. Not pointing any fingers at you, Wren. But yes, I've been really excited to talk about this pretty much since the movie came out. I did a mini-sode on this way back just as it came out in 2022. So if you want like sort of condensed version of what I think of this movie, go check out that mini-sode as well. But we're going to go in depth with it here today. Before we do that though, if you would like to support this podcast, Oh, 2 seconds. You can't hear the get. Apparently, you can't be heard, Nico. And I've maybe just went and really fucked this entire episode up. I've not.
You're not been recording me.
No,
You've not put me through.
I'd not put your audio through. We'll carry on with the episode. I've fixed you now. I will carry on with the episode just now. And then when I go to... Thank you very much, by the way, Revised in the chat. Thank you so much for pointing that out, because I did not notice. We'll carry on with the episode as normal. And then when we go off air, I'll check to see if... everything's okay. And if we need to re-record the intro, we can re-record separately. Off.
You know I can do that. That's
anyways, yes, if you would like to support this podcast, you can do so on X at Damned Podcast. We're on Facebook and Instagram, Pod of the Damned. You can email us at podofthedamned@gmail.com, or you can subscribe to us on Patreon, patreon.com/Pod of the Damned. Woo! Getting really fucking good with that.
That didn't sound like you fucked up. Are you feeling okay?
I didn't fuck it up, that's why. I mean, I just did fuck, like, almost... I almost fucked up the whole episode, but I didn't fuck that bit up.
That would have been hysterical if you had fucked up the whole episode. For the first time ever.
Yeah, I just didn't record it.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Nico.
Well, that wouldn't have made my day. Honest.
That would have made your fucking month.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, Nico, before we get into the movie, you're aware of the leaderboard. I've updated you on the last couple of movies that you weren't here for. Yeah. Where do you think Terrifier 2 is going to come on the leaderboard? Would you like me to remind you where Terrifier currently sits?
Yes, that would help.
Terrifier, I gave it a score of 6.5, you gave it a 5, the listeners gave it a 6.8, Wren, who was our guest on that episode, gave it a 4. It got an overall, including the critics, of a 5.5 and sits in 70th place at the minute. Out of 89. This is our 90th movie we've covered.
So I'll split the difference between me and you for the last one. I'll say 6 for this one.
You think this one's going to hit a 6? A 6 would put it in 61st place at the minute.
I'll say 62 because I like that number. 62?
Yeah. What's so special about 62?
I don't know. I just like it.
Okay. So you think it's gonna come in 62nd place with a score of 6?
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's find out by doing our actual review of the episode. And in today's show, we're talking all about Terrifier 2. This movie was released in 2022, was written and directed by Damien Leone, and stars Lauren Lavera, David Howard Thornton, and Elliot Fulham. The IMDb plot is as follows. After being resurrected by a sinister entity, Art the Clown returns to the timid town of Miles County, where he targets a teenage girl and her younger brother on Halloween night. So, when me and you did the Terrifier episode, and we had our very good friend and guest of that episode, Wren, on. Wren was very not complimentary about Terrifier. And you weren't particularly complimentary about Terrifier either. You gave it a very average 5.
Yeah, because it's a very average movie in my opinion. It's just gory to be gory. The thing that makes this stand out nowadays is it's a throwback to the 80s and 90s gore fests. That's what makes these movies stand out.
Yeah.
It pulls in all the age groups, basically.
But that's also kind of the point, isn't it? That's what it is supposed to be. It's supposed to be the throwback, because they don't make movies like this anymore.
Yes, but it's a watered-down throwback, in my opinion.
Watered down? You think this is a watered-down gore fest?
Yeah.
Are we still talking about the first Terrifier, or are we talking about both of them in general?
The first one, definitely.
Okay, okay, right. Let's apply this now to Terrifier 2. Do you think, therefore, in your opinion, given what you believe to be the shortcomings of Terrifier, do you think they addressed some of that in Terrifier 2?
Some of it, yes, but the acting is fucking like, this one, the acting is worse than the first one, I'd say.
You think it... Ooh, I hard disagree with you there.
There is, like, especially the fucking, what's it called, the clown thing, where they're always singing the songs and everything.
The Clown Cafe?
That's the one, Clown Cafe, right? that is basically like the equivalent of going 1, 2, Freddy's gonna get you,
Uh-huh.
but a watered down shitter version.
But I don't. Where's the bad acting in that? Because it's a scene. It's a dream.
It's a dream, I get that, but that, for example, is where you see the worst acting in it. Like,
But
don't get
it's
me wrong, the main character, Sienna,
uh-huh.
she is fucking awful.
Wow. I
Like,
again couldn't
awful.
disagree with you more.
Her acting is gosh.
I
Like,
mean,
there's not one scene she's in that I thought she acted well.
listen, I'm not sitting here saying that she deserves a fucking Oscar for her performance, but given some of the movies that me and you have reviewed, and some of the things that we've seen, I just couldn't disagree with you more. I think she's pretty good, to be honest.
Do you know what this movie reminds me of? A porno parody of Terrifier one without the porn. Because the acting is that bad.
Even from your main man, Chris Jericho.
Yeah, that's one of the worst ones. Like, fucking hell.
That was just an
How
odd.
obvious is it it's going to be a fucking head that's like fucking at that bit, right? That's the fucking big reveal bit, and you're like, fucking, oh.
But
Genuinely,
I don't think it was really meant
it's
to be a surprise.
Yeah, but it is an awful, like, this is cheesy as fuck. This is. There's only so many times you can see that face, and that's it. You know what I mean? Like, art has one expression now, and that's it. He had more expressions in the first one than the second.
Again, I disagree completely. He has multiple expressions in this movie.
Nah,
I think.
I think this is worse than the first one.
But you just said it was better. You just said like they fixed some things that you disliked from the first one.
They did. They like right. So yeah, I think it's better by they fixed more of the gore, right? So the gore was what I was missing on the last one, but the acting is worse than this one, if that makes sense. So it's taking it down again. So the things that I had a problem with last time, they fixed some of that, but on this one, they made the things that were working worse.
Well, I mean, listen, I have issues with this movie, and we'll get into them as we go into a deeper dive. But I honestly could not disagree with you more about some of those points you just made. Don't get me wrong, I'm not sitting here again saying that the acting is like, award-winning levels, but I think considering this type of movie that we've got, and I think the type of movie that this is trying to be, I think the acting is perfectly fine. I think Art as a character is significantly expanded on what he is in the first movie. I disagree completely that he becomes almost less I know you're not saying expressionless, but like one tone.
Yeah.
Like I think he shows much more layers of his character. He is funnier. He's more violent. He shows more of that playful side that we get a glimpse of in the first one, but we get a much bigger glimpse of in this one. He has a little sidekick in this one. Like I just think there's so much more.
I do like the sidekick. The sidekick is creepy as fuck.
The little pale girl, as she is billed as.
She is
we'll get onto
creepy as fuck.
we'll get onto theories about her a little bit as well, but I just I couldn't disagree with you more about all of those things.
Okay.
No, but the last few episodes we were on before we took our break, we generally have been agreeing about things, and
Yeah.
and in fairness, that was scaring me a little bit. But yeah, no, okay. Fair enough. So there's your base. That's the base of what we're going to be going off here. I feel like this is going to become a theme of this episode then, because we are very clearly in two very different places about this movie. So this could be interesting. One of the things I do want to talk about in this movie, and we kind of touched upon it in our original Terrifier episode with Wren, back when we were talking about independent movies and how successful this movie actually was, because there's no denying, no matter what you think about it, this movie has been a huge success. This movie was made on a very, very, very small budget, considering the sort of scope of the movie and what they were going for, and considering how little money they had, they really went for, we're going to try and cram as much as possible in here. I'll maybe get onto the runtime as well, because that is definitely worth discussing. But the success of this movie is incredible, and as Red said in that episode, though, even though he didn't like Terrifier, he wanted to see Terrifier 2 and Terrifier 3, and we'll get to that as well. You know, he wants to see them be a success because it leads to more independent horror movies being given that cinema release, being given like given more eyes on it. You know, Terrifier, I think, was only ever supposed to come out in an initial like 1 week run in a very limited selection of theaters across America. It never hit the theaters here in the UK. Like, we never got it here in the cinema, which is unfortunate, because I would quite like to see this on the big screen. But you know, it just sort, and then it just sort of kept, its run kept extending and extending because people were just loving it. There was a huge like social, you know, there was a huge social media campaign. You know, it got that whole reports of people vomiting in the theaters, and you know, cinemas handing out vomit bags to people that were heading in. So it got that treatment, and
well,
you
that's
know,
a gimmick that works. That's all that is.
yeah, no, 100%. But it works. That's the thing.
Yeah, don't get me
you
wrong,
know,
it does work.
and this movie was
awful.
this movie was so successful that its run got extended like 10 times, and then it got a re-release again in America like 2 weeks ago. So it's been re-released in the theaters again. So it's still in the cinema.
Yeah.
And in that way, and I'm sure you.
That's a good thing. I agree with you. That is a good thing, but I think it's like this movie, like the first one I said was overrated, right? And I think this is overrated for what it is.
I know, but I know what you think, but I disagree.
I know you will.
It's just you might think it's overrated, but like I'm saying, like, I'm not really talking about, you know, whether or not I think this was a quality of this film. I'm just talking about, you know, how important this movie actually might end up being in terms of bringing more eyes into cinema and more eyes onto independent horror. Because when was the last sort of big independent horror film that did this? You're probably talking about this movie being the biggest actual success in the last decade.
Yeah, but I know it sounds weird because, right, this is one of my favorite franchises is Freddy. It reminds me of how Nightmare on Elm Street got started, but like a fucking, it's like a shitter clone of it, if you know what I mean. It's like they've taken stuff from different horror things, mixed it together in a pot, and it's just not worked for me.
Well, give me some examples. That what have they taken from different horror things?
Well, it's like when she's dreaming about everything, that just straight away I associate with fucking Freddy. The clown you just associate with it. You know, all these things go back to other things. It's like they've taken a lot of stuff.
You could say that literally about anything. So what? You're just not allowed to have a dream sequence anymore in a film because you're going to rip off Nightmare on Elm Street.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying it comes across that way in this horror. It seems very, something about it just doesn't sit right with me because it just feels like it's not fucking done well. Like it feels fucking awful to me, this movie. Like, I've watched it more than once wanting to like it more, but no.
Listen, it's obviously very clear that this is just not your franchise at all. I don't think, based on what we're seeing, based on what we know about Terrifier 3, you're probably not going to like that one as well. This is just not a franchise for you, because again, I couldn't disagree with you more. I don't think you get anyone who really realistically looks at this and thinks, "Oh, this is it." You know, I don't think you get any.
But I'm just meaning
I don't
you
think
associate with those things. That's what.
Because it's a clown. That's what I'm like. You're literally taking the most basic element of what this is and just transferring it onto what is the most famous thing. You're literally sitting there saying, "Oh, it's like Nightmare on Elm Street," because, and the only similarity though is because they have a dream sequence. That's literally it.
No. The dream sequence and the thing that wakes her up is the fire. What normally happens in Nightmare on Elm Street? Are you telling me that's not the case?
But again, but how many movies have done that?
I know, but I'm just saying this feels like it's trying to be a melting pot of different things. They've taken some brilliant ideas. I wanted to like this. That's the problem. I really wanted to like this, but it seems to have addressed the things that I had a problem with before by watering down the other part of it, which was actually half decent. It's like they sacrificed one thing for another, and
But
what they
but
should do is keep the best parts of everything.
But no, I again, yeah, no, but given what I know, and I'm obviously a fan of this movie.
I know.
I know a lot of behind the scenes stuff about this movie. And given what I know about our sort of cast and our director and the writer, I can tell you right now that they're not just mixing other movies into a big pot and just throwing it on the screen. Like I think you're so far off the mark there. This is probably
But
one of the
that's what it's coming across as. That's what I'm saying. That's I don't know any of that back stuff, but that's what's coming across as to me.
but I just don't really get that. I think you're looking being I'm trying not to insult you, Nico. I'm just, I just think you're
Salt
being,
away, fucking.
I just think you're being way too shallow about this movie. I think you're taking literally the most basic aspect of this film and not actually looking deeper into it.
Right. Art in this just does the same fucking face all the time.
No, he doesn't.
It's not. It fucking pretty much does.
He,
Like,
he doesn't though. He literally doesn't.
fucking does. Like, I have this on in the background. It's still the fucking face. It's always coming on, and you're like, this is right. Really, fucking evolved the clown a bit. The only thing that's evolved now is a supernatural element that you weren't sure of before. That's the
Involve? What
only
do you mean
difference.
involve the clown?
Like, evolve the clown. Not
Oh,
involve,
evil.
evolve.
I thought you said involve. I think he's pretty damn involved.
Like, don't get me wrong. That bit where, like, I like a fucking montage bit. That bit where he's making his new weapon. I like that. I'm not going to fucking say it because it'll annoy you. But it reminded me of a bit in a movie, which is Freddy Krueger.
Did it remind you of the
Funnily
original
enough,
Nightmare on Elm Street? But listen,
where he's making the fucking.
but this
And
again.
I preferred that. This one, it came across better. It was funkier. I liked it.
It was funky.
And while he was doing it, it was like fucking. It seemed scarier in this than it did in Nightmare on Elm Street. So I'll give that as a positive, right? When he was making that weapon, but how often did he use it after that?
I mean, it got used a couple of times.
Yeah, but I would have liked to have seen it use it more. I would have like it was throwing back to the first one at that point while it was doing it. So I think that added to the whole thing of it. I liked that.
Okay.
Where he had his creepy sidekick. But that's the thing about the creepy sidekick as well. Is the creepy sidekick real or not? Because the two of them see it, but then other times it's like the guy doesn't see it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is one of the
There's a weird thing with that, and I like that.
This is one of the talking points because one of the big things I think, right? I'm going to try and put my personal opinion about the things you've just said aside.
Right. Well, let's do the easy way, right? Let's talk about the things I liked in it.
Well, no, because you've just brought up something. You just brought up one of my points anyway. So I want to talk about the little pale girl.
Yes.
Obviously,
I like that. That was one of the things I liked.
Hey, there we go. Obviously, little pale girl, new character to the franchise in this movie, and there's a lot of sort of theories about who and what the little pale girl is, whether or not she's real. Some of the theories that I've seen. So I've got like three feelings. I've got like I can't speak. A few theories. That I've seen.
3 theories? Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, it's like 2/3. So one of the theories is that the little pale girl here is the soul of Art's first victim.
Right.
And that her soul has been corrupted by Art, and therefore is now assisting him, so to speak. So
Stuck
it's
to him,
yeah, sort of thing, almost like a guardian angel kind of thing, but for an evil person.
Demons, yeah.
Yeah.
A demonic angel.
A demonic angel, yeah. A demon.
Yeah. There you go.
So that's one of the theories. Another theory is that the little pale girl is the daughter of the homeless woman from the first movie.
Right.
Because apparently, I think in the first movie, there's like a missing child poster somewhere that looks incredibly like her, and it's her daughter. So that's one of the theories. The other theory is that it's just simply a demon that has taken a child's form to accompany Art.
I like the last one of that the best.
Just plainly a demon that the demon resurrected him in the first one, and for purposes of the second movie is just taking the form of this child which imitates
Don't
Art's
get me wrong.
look.
There was nothing wrong with any of those theories,
No,
but
no,
I
no, no.
preferred the
I
third one.
personally those are just like the main three theories that I've sort of seen banded about.
What's your favorite one out of those theories?
Um, I think I would go with it being like his first victim and has corrupted his soul. And the reason why I would go with that being a thing, because in the post mid credit scene where Victoria gives birth to Art's severed head, he has corrupted her to the point where she now worships him. You know, she's writing love notes about herself and Art on the wall in her own, you know, vaginal blood. And
her own vaginal blood.
Her own vaginal.
You could have just said her own blood. Because it's blood, mate.
Her vaginal blood.
But I love the fact you're like, it's vaginal blood. And I'm like, you could have just said blood.
Because I think therefore though, the fact that he's sort of turned her into like to worshipping him shows that he has that power to sort of corrupt.
Yeah.
Don't know. But any of those series are I think pretty could work, or pretty decent.
See, I like the demon one for one reason only. That would be one of those where he got resurrected by the demon, so he was mortal in the first one until that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Which would fit into the franchise more and seem better, I think, in my personal opinion.
Yeah. I mean, fair enough. There is no right or wrong answer to these kind of discussions anyway. You know, we're at that point where maybe we can have a disagreement without me wanting to kick your cunt in. But what do you think, guys? Think in the chat room. If you're in the chat and you're listening, what do you think? What's your theories about the little pale girl? Who do you think she is? Do you think it's a demon or some other sort of spiritual form? One thing we'll move on, because one of the things I want to talk about in this film, going back to Terrifier, again, one of the big criticisms of Terrifier, and I think it is one of the more general criticisms that pretty much everyone's on board with. It's a very thinly plotted movie. There's not a lot of plot to the first film. They do.
I think they overextended that.
So this movie has a runtime of about 2 hours and 20 minutes. It's a long boy.
So they went the total opposite way. They went from, it wasn't enough to, okay, we're throwing in the art is drawn by her father and all that shit. And you're like, yeah, this could have been broken down in the next movie, some of it. Well, you know, they could have held some back.
Okay, I agree. But do you think, at least with this one, because there's so much plot thrown in, do you think that makes a better movie than the first one?
No, because I think they went the opposite way. I think they put too much in this.
Yeah, but is putting too much in it worse than putting not enough? That's essentially what I'm asking.
In my opinion, yes.
Okay.
Because you can always add more, whilst if you put, it's like if you're making any recipe, you can always add more, but you can never take it out again.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's that they've spoke about too much stuff. They've done too much stuff in it, and it just like I've watched this and I just thought, what the fuck?
I think the thing is, and again, it's a sort of opinion that I've seen quite a few people make, is they put a lot in here, like you were mentioning about like her dad's sketchbook and her previously, you know, what is her dad's relationship to art, you know, like was he having visions, you know, was he like, is Art like, there's rumors going about that like Art is Sienna and Jonathan's father, and like, you know, all these sorts of things.
Yeah, I've heard that one, yeah.
I think what the thing is, right, and I'm sure that it was possibly intentional, because they did always plan on making the third one.
Yeah.
Is that they put too much in here but didn't answer enough. I feel like it would have been fine to have all this plot, all this exposition that they've got in here, if they just answered a little bit more. Because and I'm talking about a completely different franchise now, but I remember in the run up to me and Anna going to see Saw 10, we obviously ran through all the previous movies because she hadn't seen them all before. and I can't remember which one it was. It was like Saw 4 or something. And she asked me, like, something happened on screen. She was like, "Oh, what's that all about?" And I was like, "You'll find out in 3 movies' time."
Yeah.
And obviously, we obviously,
which is way too fucking long.
yeah, and obviously, like, we don't know what's going to happen in Terrifier 3. We don't know. Well, we know it's a Christmas movie.
Well, I like a fucking horror Christmas.
You
Right?
do.
It's the thing. I love Christmas horror. So if it ruins that, it'll be the worst one in the franchise.
Oh Jesus! Have you seen the trailer for
I
it?
think I saw the start of it, but then you wanted to do this, so I've not seen all of it.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean,
I was waiting for you because you said like 10, 15 minutes, so I started watching it, and
oh,
then you
right,
were like,
okay.
"At the invite," and I'm like, "Bastard."
That's
So yeah,
well, check out the trailer. But it's not really it doesn't give anything away at all. It's a 2 minute
I
trailer.
saw him at the tree, and he smiled, and that was as far as I've got.
Okay, you're pretty much there then.
Oh, is it not much longer than that? I thought it was like a minute and a bit longer.
Yeah, but then not much happens in it.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I always am a bit wary about movies that don't answer things until the next movie in the franchise. It's like fair enough, one or two
See,
small.
that's fine, but they've done it too much.
Well, then that's what I'm saying. Like one or two small things, okay. But for me, even though you're making a franchise, I do kind of, unless you're telling like a big long story, unless you're doing like a Lord of the Rings where it is a trilogy, unless you're doing, you know,
2 seconds. I just need to go for a walk, and then climb a hill, and then go for a walk again.
and
Okay.
I'll watch that for fucking 12 hours.
And then can I just do this? Plop.
You would watch that for 12 hours. I love the Lord of the Rings.
Hey, I love Lord of the Rings, but the explanation in Clerks where he does that is fucking spot on.
But you can do that in a franchise like that. You can do that in a thing like, Harry Potter and those kind of things where it is, a succession of movies. Here, even I know we're talking about.
Hold on. You shall not pass.
Sorry. I know we're talking.
Hey.
I know we're talking about a franchise here, but I do kind of sometimes feel that the movies should be relatively self-contained, and that you shouldn't leave a movie with more questions than answers.
The thing is, right? Some of the Lord of the Rings has such a huge fan base because of the books.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Harry Potter. It's like fucking anything else like that. If the lore's built into it, you've got to extend it. Yeah. This has no lore yet, and I know they're trying to make the lore as they go.
But they haven't. But this is the thing: we have 2 movies now, and we have 0 background explanation for art.
Yeah, you were literally just the way to say the point that I was just the way to make.
Oh, sorry. Carry on then.
It's fine. You just basically said it. It's fine.
No, but like
I was just saying. Basically, they've done enough stuff, and they've basically done it, and they've not told you where he's come from. They've not told you if it's like an evolution of her father that's became this clown thing, if he was getting visions of stuff becoming this clown thing, how this family is even related to the fucking clown in the first place. All of this stuff. Now, the thing is, I quite like art. Like, I like the concept of art. I've always liked the mimes going evil, but it's like they're toning him down to evolve him, but not evolving him properly. Does that make sense?
I disagree with they're toning him down, but I do agree that they have explained nowhere near enough about him, given that we've now had essentially 4 hours of film surrounding Art the Clown, and it's but part of me is also like, well, is it us that's maybe in the wrong for having that opinion? Look, in these 2 movies, as polarizing as people might find these movies, Art the Clown is possibly the most famous is the biggest new villain in the 21st century.
Oh, 100%, I know that.
So are we wrong then in that opinion? Because would he have been as successful if we'd had a lot more exposition, and if he had been more explained? Would he have been as successful?
I think he's this generational type thing, right? Every generation has a villain that associates with that generation, and this generation has the attention span of a fucking gnat. So that's why it's working.
So all the Gen Zers just turned the podcast off.
It's not a bad thing. It means you're entertained for a lot longer. Fucking, it means you're going to be entertained for the rest of your life. There's nothing wrong with that. But
I get what you're saying though, because
it's evolved. It's the evolution of like the mobile phone thing. Like before, the mobile phones was just a portable phone.
Yeah.
Now it is what everyone's connected to, me included, every 2 seconds. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things where that is the case. But this generational one is, he seems like a hollowed out version of a decent character is my problem with it.
I disagree with that fundamentally.
Okay.
I think Art the Clown as a character, yes, I don't think we've gotten anywhere near enough backstory on him. I think a little bit of that would have helped. However, having said that, this movie is already packed and long enough. You know, do we really want to spend an extra 5 minutes in this movie? You know, continuing to add to that runtime. You'd need to start cutting bits and pieces out, which, you know, I think there is parts of this you could probably cut and get this down to. I even think like just trimming like 20 minutes off of this, you'd have been fine. Even at, like, if this movie even at 2 hours, I think would have been okay.
Yeah, I think the problem with this is they're expanding the universe that this is in without going into backstory. I think that's my fundamental problem.
I think what they've done is, right, I think they've kept Art the same in that they're not really giving away anything about him. I believe they've made him significantly more violent in this movie than he was in the first one. I think they've made him maybe a bit more creative, and, you know, maybe a bit more aloof at times as well. But what they have done is they've actually given us characters as the heroes. If you remember in that first movie, you know, we're talking about you know, sort of Tara and Dawn from that first movie. They were so two-dimensional as characters.
Yeah.
At least here,
everyone was.
And at least in this movie, for as little as you might like the acting, you know, we get, you know, characters who care about each other. You know, we get a friendship group, we get a family. You know, there's aspects there, and for me, I think that raises the stakes in this movie a little bit, because we know in the first movie, for as much as I love Terrifier, you know, there's no sort of consequence to the kills. The kills are all the characters that we don't really care about. You think about him killing the extermination man. Well, we only know him as the random dude who's gassing the building. You know, his pal who comes to meet him. Again, that's all we know about him. But in this movie, you know, oh, that's her daughter, that's their friends. You know, like there's more impact for me in this movie.
But you saying that, the kill I liked is the one that you don't really know fuck all. It's the clerk. I liked that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did like the clerk dying.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, listen, it's a slasher gore-fest horror movie. There has to be cannon fodder, and the clerk in this one is that.
And I like that point. I love. See, that's one of the scenes that I actually liked. I liked Art doing the whole counting out the fucking bits of shit, doing all that, you know, and then doing the oh really, and then doing his normal face and bottling a cunt. I liked all that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that.
Let's talk. Something a psycho would do.
Let's talk about that scene then, because that is probably the scene where Art is showing his lighter side a bit more, and he's having a bit of fun. You know, when in the beginning of that scene, he's
with the horn.
Yeah, he's tormenting Sienna. You know, the scene like where he's trying on all the different glasses. You know, he's doing the party pop. He's blowing the what do you call those things you blow? The party thing. What's that called?
Not a party popper.
Is it? No, party popper's the thing you
streamer.
Pop. Streamer. Party streamer. You know, so I think he's showing his lighter side. There's a bit more fun in it. You know, he's tormenting Sienna, and then even after Sienna's gone, you know, you've got him sort of picking the change out of his bag, and I just think
the
all that.
The chain is my favourite bit. He pulls the chain out and then slowly puts it on there. Like, I like that.
So like, you know, I think all of that is an improvement. Like, Art showed his sort of more comedic side at times in the first one, but I think they really ramped that up in this one, and I think that was a good idea to do that.
But I like that, and even the head cutting off cutting back and forth to the scene where he's just like cutting off and then cutting to them. I like that is what I would like the movie to be like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's better that way than overloading it with heaps of shit that you're never gonna answer.
But they will answer, just not in this movie. Well,
Well,
we hope they'll answer.
uh,
Excuse me. Okay. Well, since we're on to the subject of big scenes and kill scenes, should we
come on
talk?
then.
Let's talk about the bedroom scene.
Yeah.
Because the first movie, one of the things I think that really actually put the first movie on the map was the big kill, wasn't it? It was sawing her in half vagina first. That's it's what everyone wanted to see in that film. You know, people were literally saying, "Oh, have you seen this movie? He literally like saws a woman in half by the fucking pussy."
Uh,
And in this movie, you're like, right. So how do you one up that? Because and you know, despite the accusations that will get got thrown against the first one, which we briefly talked about in the episode, I'm sure we'll bring them up again in a little bit. You know, that was an impactful scene for that movie. How do you top that? Well, this movie has the bedroom scene, and
Yeah.
how do you, what do you think about the bedroom scene? Is that I've seen people say, you know, obviously it's one of the biggest scenes in the film. I've seen people saying it goes on for way too long. I've seen people say that it's unbelievable, like it's not, you know, because the effects and the gore in it is you have to you suspend your imagination a little bit. You know, you have suspension of disbelief a little bit.
Yeah.
What's your overall
So,
thoughts?
like, I know it sounds weird. I like the scene where the mother goes in and she's awake.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because the animatronics in that are good.
You know what? I like the sentiment behind that, but I think for me at that point it's too unbelievable. There's no way she'd be awake.
I, yes, but I get that. But I like the fact they threw that in to show that you know they can do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was one of the bits I liked.
Okay.
But like the bit with the hand coming, well, the arm coming off. Sorry, it just that bit. I'm just like, really, come on. At least make it look realistic instead of a bit of rubber just flopping about. You can't. I mean,
On the same topic, what do you feel about the effects of this movie in general? Because the effects of both Terrifiers is one of the things that this franchise has been highly praised upon. You know, there's been people
the
out there
effects were actually half decent. The only
because
time that I thought it was shit was the bedroom scene.
because Damien Leone, the writer and director, also is the special effects artist on this movie. Like he literally
Yeah.
was doing everything for this movie. There are people out there who are calling him the next Tom Savini, who is
Yeah.
you know probably the best special effects artist in horror ever. You know, would you agree with that sentiment? Do you think he's got that potential? Like, because
Oh,
I
I
mean, you
love
look
the
at
special effects.
some of Savini's effects in the 80s. You know,
Yeah.
I get that it's 40 odd years ago, but they weren't. I don't think they weren't much better
Fuck,
than
how
what we
old I
saw in
feel now.
this, right?
Well, like, right. For example, let's break down the bedroom scene. Right, the slash across the eye instead of the stab inside. I like that
Uh-huh.
because it's a change of pace. Every man and his dog does in the eye.
Mm-hmm.
So love that.
And eyes are always a
Just
good way to go anyway because of how squeamish people get about them.
exactly. And the scalping thing is the next thing that everyone gets on about,
Mm-hmm.
which is the next thing on it, which is to be done with scissors instead of a scalpel.
Yeah.
Interesting take on it. You know what I mean?
Which is funny because that's
And
two movies in a row now that I've watched that for the show about scalping because Maniac because all about scalping.
yeah,
Anyways,
but aye, like, don't get me wrong, the effects for that is brilliant. But see the bit where he stops the arm off. That bit, you're just like, really, come on, at least break it properly and do it that way. You know what I mean? And the what's after that again? Is it the hand thing after that?
yeah, he splits her hand like down the middle, doesn't he?
Yeah, so like that's the two bits that I don't like because the
The
snapping the arm off and the splitting the hands like that.
yeah.
The effort it would take to do that without either cutting or breaking first. That's the bit that I'm like, meh.
But I mean,
Pretty shit with
we're
that.
probably being pretty nitpicky here, considering
I am with that. I'm not gonna lie, I
considering
am with
what it
that.
is that we're watching. I think we are being nitpicky here.
Yeah, but it's just my own personal thing. The only two bits I don't like in that bedroom bit are the arm coming off and the splitting the fingers.
Yeah. Um.
Everything else in it is fucking brilliant, I'd say.
What about the moment where he comes back with the salt and the bleach?
Yeah, that is fucking brutal.
Because
I like that.
I think yeah, no, as what I'm saying, because I think at points like he's obviously been very brutal, and I think even without that, this
Yeah,
would have probably been the big sort of set piece scene of the movie. But for them to then come
yeah,
back with the salt and the bleach,
yeah.
that
Like
was
the only part I don't like in the salt and the bleach is that's when you can tell the arm is fake
yeah
because it's too floppy and everything. But I'm not gonna lie, I did like the face tear
yeah
when it came off. I loved that. That was actually quite gruesome and quite similar, and I liked it.
mm-hmm.
And then that was it, really. Like I like the animatronics of the thing. I think that was just showing he could do that. To be
Yeah.
honest, I'm not gonna lie, which I sort of like. So there is like special effects in this is right up there.
So we're saying bedroom scene is a big plus of the movie.
Yeah,
Excellent. We're getting somewhere, Nico. What about then? We're going to keep on with the kills. We've obviously already spoken about the store worker. What about the very very beginning of the movie with the doctor in the morgue, which obviously picks up straight from the first movie, and I do like the fact that this movie just picks up straight from that first film. I really like that.
yeah, I like that in movies as well. You know that.
Yeah. So, but again, like opening up with the real like fucking gruesome kill. In Terrifier, the first one, it doesn't open with something as gruesome and horrific as this movie
Yeah,
does. This movie is telling you straight off the bat that we are going to be way more violent than the first one ever was.
turn up to 10. I know. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's the first. Like I know it sounds bad, but that first kill, it just seems like they're dialing it in a bit compared to the rest of the kills.
Well, what makes you say that?
I don't know. It's just something in me says it. Like the thing I liked
Something
about that the
inside
most.
you, is it?
The thing I liked the best
That's
about
your Friday night coming back on you.
the thing I liked about it, the start, is him playing with his eye and stuff. That's the bit I liked.
Remind you of
You know what I
anyone?
mean? Like, well, yeah. But I like the fact that he's went, well, I've been resurrected. What's this about? Why have I got holes here? I quite like this.
Well, this is a
I mean,
question.
this is fun.
This is a question that I want to ask though, because again, this is a sort of like something that unknown about art. Because obviously, in the first one, he shoots himself through the eye and blows out his brains. He gets resurrected, but at the beginning of this movie, he's resurrected, but his eye's still not there, and he's still got a hole in his brain. He takes out the eye of the morgue and starts to play around with it. But how does art then
The guy's one in. That's funny.
how does art then become like whole again? Is it a case of the demon just heals him, or is it a case that he's like the fucking creeper from Jeepers Creepers and he eats it and it becomes a part of him? You know what I mean? Like there's something there that could have been told.
Because I never brought up the Jeepers Creepers, but yes, it felt very like that
Yeah.
at the start. And as I was saying before, it feels like they've grabbed a heap of bits from movies and it's like that. And that was one of the things that I associated it with.
Damn it! I can't believe I just helped make one of your shitty points.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so especially it being the eye, because Jeepers Creepers, the whole point of that is Jeepers Creepers, where'd you get those peepers? And that felt like it was stolen straight from them.
Okay.
Because straight away it was the eye, you know what I mean? But saying that, I liked the hole when he was playing with it. I liked when he was playing with his holes.
I bet you did.
Fuck's sake.
There we go. Okay, right. One of the other big scenes I think we haven't really talked about too much. It's probably the most polarizing scene in the whole movie, the clown cafe scene.
Yeah.
You obviously are not a fan of this scene.
Yeah, because like even in a dream sequence, at least arced it decently. You know what I mean?
Well, but the thing is, right? There's theories about there about what the clown cafe scene is whether it even is a dream sequence or not. There are people out there who don't believe it's a dream sequence, and in fact, she's been pulled into another realm.
See, somebody was speaking to me about it, and they're like, "Oh, I think the clown cafe is his previous victims that you haven't seen yet."
Yeah, I've got that. I've actually got that written down as being one of the theories about that scene.
Yeah. So I quite like that one because when I heard that, I'm like, I like the idea of that. To be
Yeah,
honest, I'm not gonna lie.
and maybe when he's not out in the real world doing his killings, he's just tormenting the souls of his previous victims in this
Yeah,
sort of nether realm.
yeah, I quite like that.
What about the nun and the homeless man? Make anything
Yeah,
of that?
that's fucking weird, right? The nun and the homeless dude, right? Why is that there? What's the point of it? It's another unanswered question. It just feels like it's been thrown in for
Yeah,
no reason. And you know yourself, they're going to touch on it in the next one.
yeah.
So I don't think they're going to close that either. They're going to touch on it, and that's it.
I'm part of quite a few Terrifier sort of groups on social media, and
Yeah.
there's so many like wild and crazy theories about what the nun is and what the homeless man is and what they represent, and but no, there
Come
is.
on, hit me with some.
Well, I do not have any written down, but there's it is an odd one. I think it is something that they have stated that they're going to answer or hopefully answer in Terrifier 3, but again, whether they do or they don't is,
Like the only one I've heard of that is, oh, the nun's got to be somebody that's been raped by the fucking homeless guy, and that's what created art. And I'm like, okay,
wow.
yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, that was one of the theories that somebody says to me, and I'm like, that's where your mind went with that,
Okay.
really?
What about the song?
Fuck off.
You not a fan of the song?
Nah, I was a fan of the other thing I was a massive fan of was the candy in the head.
Drop on by the Clown Cafe. What?
So the other thing I was a fan of
Drop on
was the
by
head.
the Clown Cafe. What? the candy in the head. You know,
Yeah,
after the bedroom scene where he uses her as a bowl.
yeah. So he's like handing it out to the kids and like, ooh, mine's sticky, and I like that.
Yeah, no,
That that was a good bit.
that's great. It's so creative. I love it.
Yeah,
You've also got, I mean, we're really sort of just firing, touching over a load of scenes here. When he kills their mum, and he just decides to ram mashed potatoes in her head.
yeah, yeah. That is so fucked up.
But it's funny as fuck, isn't it?
How much of a dick is our mate spiking her
That's
dick?
that's my next point. That's my next point.
Is
I've
that?
got how terrible are Sienna's friends. One of them roofies her.
Aye. Well, the reason you feel like you're a molly is because you're a molly. Ha ha!
Like,
And you're like,
I feel like, Nico, like everyone's done some shady shit in their time, right? Everyone's had made questionable decisions, and at times, we've all maybe not been sometimes the best of friends to some other person at some point in our life. I've never roofied one of my friends.
I have a story about that.
Hey, let's go.
So I was seeing a girl who was well into her
This,
ecstasy, which
by the way,
Molly is, by the way.
just to sorry interrupt you. This is the part of the episode that Boomer lives for. He lives for you to be like, as soon as you go, I have a story. It's like, right, get the popcorn out.
So, so I was seeing this girl who was well into her ecstasy, which is what Molly is over here, right? And she loved that shit. So she gave me a couple of pills and goes to it, right? Pop it in my drink at any time, just don't tell me, so I just feel it coming on.
What?
So she was asking me to spike her drink, right? So I'm like, okay. So I'm thinking about this the whole night. So not thinking about it consciously, it may have been used by somebody else. Uh, it may have like been popped by somebody else. So by the end of the night, she's like, "Oh yeah, you put it in when I was at where was the name of the place? It was one of the clubs in Aberdeen that I never went to. It's like
Mm-hmm.
fucking Chaplin's or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, that's where I popped it. She never got any ecstasy that night. Like, not one bit of it went in her drink. And she was like, "Oh yeah, you should do that more often. It was fucking amazing." So she
Wow.
wanted to basically get drugged by somebody else and have a great night, and she never even had it. And subconsciously, she thought she'd taken
Wow,
it.
that's quite the
Yeah.
story.
So yeah, and you know her, so I'm not mentioning names.
Oh well, you can tell me when we're off air.
Possibly.
Okay. We've run through most of the points that I want to bring up with this movie, but I still have a couple left. I want to talk about. We mentioned him, Chris Jericho.
Yes.
Why is he here?
Fuck knows that, but I know he's a massive fan. Like, he spoke about being a fan of Terrifier, so whether he's done the good old fashioned, well, I'm famous enough, can I get a bit in your movie?
Yeah.
Or whether he knows somebody, that's the thing.
Do you think we see him again in Terrifier 3?
Yes, I think
Is
he's going to
is
be like the first kill.
is he? There's well, because I think if you're gonna have, this is the thing, right? Because there's a bigger icon in this movie that we haven't even talked about. Felissa Rose is in this movie, and she's one of the biggest independent horror icons out there. You know,
Yeah.
Sleepaway Camp is an absolute cult classic, and she is barely in this film. Like, she again is a cameo. It's a very
Yeah.
very small cameo. If you're gonna do that for me in these kind of films, you have someone like Felissa Rose, you have someone like Chris Jericho. You're there therefore so we can watch them get splattered across the screen.
Yes.
And
100%.
neither of them did in this movie. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping. I haven't heard whether or not Felissa Rose might be back. I don't think she's back for Terrifier 3. I also haven't heard whether or not Chris Jericho is back for Terrifier 3. I'm hoping at least one of them is back so we can see them get fucking killed.
Yeah. Because my personal theory, this isn't one I've heard. My personal theory is it'll do the same as what it did before. That head will probably grow into art, and Jericho will be the first kill in the next one.
You know what I want to happen? You know that scene
What?
in Deadpool where he gets his legs like he gets split in half and then he has to walk around with the baby legs.
I want him to kill Jericho with the baby legs.
I want him to kill Jericho with the baby legs. I want
Air
Art
high
the
five.
Clown to
Air
walk.
high five. Air high five.
I want Art the Clown.
Fucking do right.
I want Art the Clown to be walking around with a baby legs.
Yeah. Baby legs, baby arm, it just walks up and slashes Jericho's throat.
Giant head.
Yeah, just the fucking yeah.
Oh, I so want that to happen.
I don't know how they do it, but I would love to see that.
Okay, the last point I have about the film is I want to talk a little bit about Sienna's mother, because we
Yes.
haven't really touched upon her a lot. She's an angry woman.
Yes.
You know, I've seen this movie, you know, multiple times now, and I remember when I first watched it, just being like, I didn't really like the character. I felt she was a bit one-dimensional. Like, she's just like constantly raging.
Angry mum.
Angry mum. But then as I was sort of upon rewatches, you know, there is layers to her character as well. She's a single mum. She's got two.
Yeah.
You know, the character of Jonathan. I think he's supposed to be like what, 12, 11,
Yeah.
something like that. Sienna.
And he is the whipping boy. No fucking pun intended
He
here.
gets
He
all-
is the whipping boy of the movie, is he?
Yeah.
He's the one that is the like. Everyone should feel sorry for you because you're the one that's going to get it the most. Without dying.
Newman in the chat says, "Baby legs Art the Clown would get me into the theater."
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
you're right. But also, I mean, we're never explicitly told how old Sienna is in the movie. I'm gonna make an assumption of like early 20s, maybe.
I think she's just like college age.
Yeah.
Just the way to go to college, or
Yes.
just started college.
So, you know, and again, she's a single mom. her husband. I'm assuming her husband has killed himself, because we do get told what actually happens to her dad. Her dad kills himself in a
Yeah.
a car fire. And there's a moment that I think, I don't know if I maybe just like sort of glazed over it in previous watches, where we see her sort of just crying and taking her meds. And
Yeah.
I think this what, and this is just before she gets it as well, like just before she croaks it.
Yeah.
It does sort of change tonally how I feel about her as a character,
At least
because
she died happy.
there's a lot of did she? Yeah.
Though it depends on the meds, really, does it?
Yeah. But it makes, for me anyway, it did give me like a lot of sympathy for the character.
Yeah. I get that.
Fair. Okay. I just wanted to throw that in there as well.
So, what did you think of the angel outfit thing? The
the,
angel warrior outfit.
oh,
Like,
her Halloween outfit. That would
Yeah.
not have taken her many, many months to make.
No, I was thinking the same. Like, yeah. How was she picking a feather off of every bird or something?
Yeah,
How was
like
it taking months?
that. Well, you know what? Like, in fairness as well, we haven't. There is tons, because this movie is so long. There's so many aspects to it. There's tons and tons we still haven't covered. We haven't talked about the sword.
Yeah, like I quite like the sword thing, but not as good as when the kid shoots him in the face with a shotgun. No, not the face, is it?
No,
Shoots him in the
he
guts with a
Art
shotgun.
shoots the mum in the face with a shotgun.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
then the
Jonathan
kid
shoots
shoots
Art
him.
in the stomach with it.
Yeah, I quite like that bit.
Yeah.
The whole his normal pose and then bang, fuck you, you clown.
What I like as well is, the scene where Art gets decapitated as well. It's that moment, and again, it shows the more playful side of his character, where he like smiles and like leans his head to one side so that she can get like a cleaner hit.
Yeah.
Like, I really like that aspect. Like, this is what this is what for me makes Art stand out from almost every other horror villain out there.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, most other horror villains, unless they're the big skulking ones who are silent, like Jason or Michael, the rest of them, by the time their demise comes, are fearful of their own demise. Art
Yeah.
isn't.
Yeah. It's like he's welcoming it.
Yeah.
But saying that, I think it's because he knows he'll get resurrected again.
Possibly.
At that point.
Absolutely possibly. But I think it adds an extra layer to the character. It adds an extra dimension to him. He's not he doesn't really care if you do eventually manage to get one up on him at all.
Yeah.
Like, it adds to the sort of sadistic nature of him, doesn't it? Anyways.
Yeah.
I
did like his whip that was the surgical fucking scissors, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, like, again, his weapons, there's so much creativity in this film. This is why I was disagreeing with you really hard at the beginning, when you were saying it's, like, about his sort of expressions all being the same, but because there's so much creativity around the character in this film.
But it's not really with his expressions, though. It's with everything else. That's what I was.
Yeah, but you can't Art is a silent character, right? So you need to take him as a whole.
I get that, but it's like it's the equivalent of the silent clown that you see just doing the fucking wall, over and over and over again.
I know, I get it.
Like,
that's
what I mean.
No, again, I disagree. I think David Howard Thornton. David Howard Thornton.
Grow the flower and everything.
David Howard Thornton does like an absolutely incredible job of playing Art the Clown, and including his facial expressions. And also, you're saying that David Howard Thornton is a mime.
Yeah, but that's the thing. The bit that I liked the most with him in this, with him expressing himself that much, was the shop clerk, because he was having fun and playing with it then.
No, I get that. I absolutely get that being like your favorite, scene of his, because it possibly it will be for many, many people.
Yeah, but it's I like that with him because there's more expressions to him in that. Mm-hmm. Everything else, it's either nasty, ha, or and that's it. Like, he either grinds his teeth, he smirks, or he's doing that smile when he's about to die. That's it. In every other scene.
I mean, that's like humans.
What, 3 expressions? That's it.
I mean, my 3 expressions are hungry, grumpy, horny.
Yeah, but I get that. But if you've got a killer like this, he should have more to it. Like, he's proved he can do more. He's proved that in other ways, in parts of it. But it's just small scenes that he's proved it. Show that more often. Show more of it. Like, when she falls through the floor and he spits on her. That's more emotion than half of the shit that he's done before it.
I don't think it's a thing about emotion as well though, because again, it's one of those things that we see with the variant sort of especially the sort of more brutal kills in the movie. You know, like the moment, because in the first movie, you know, there's the scene where, you know, Tara in the first movie, she gets the upper hand on him, right? And
Yeah.
eventually he just like pulls the gun out of his sock and shoots her and kills her. And people hate that scene. People really dislike it. They think it's cheap and they think it's a cop out. But when we were talking about that scene, I really liked that scene because to me, that was the moment where Art was like, I'm fucking fed up of you now. And I'm just gonna fucking kill you. And that, to me, that makes a more frightening character because you know, he could literally
I'm done playing, I went serious.
Yeah. So and they
get you.
And I feel like, and there was a similar scene for me in this movie when he was chasing Brooke, and he thought like they were gonna fight in the bathroom, and he has the jar of acid.
Yeah.
And he just throws the acid in her face. Because by, again, much like the gun, but by doing that, it completely ends any sort of fight. You know, there is no fight back. She's got acid in her face. There is like there is a wee error in that scene though, because I can't pronounce the type of acid it is they use. But the type of acid that they use is like one of the strongest acids in the world. I think it's fluoronatimonic acid, apparently. It's known as a super acid. It's one of the strongest in the world. Literally just coming into contact, it would probably kill you. Like, you're not gonna survive coming together with that acid. But it would also eat through the glass.
Oh, would it?
Yeah, that's how it's a super acid.
So how'd they keep it in place?
Not with glass. I mean, I'm sure there are other substances that can contain it, but glass is not one of them.
I thought you had it there. That's why I was saying.
Oh, no. I have that. What I just said about the acid. That's all I know. But anyways,
okay.
I also like that. Again, it's a moment we didn't really talk about is the acid, because that's pretty fucking brutal too.
Yeah, like, don't get me wrong. It's not short of brutal kills, but it's just, I think they've drawn this out too much, and not answered enough for me, and it's just made it convoluted and fucking shitter for me.
Newman in the chat. I came together with this raver girl named Acid one time. It was also a killer. Hey. That's all I've got then in terms of my points about the movie. Nico, anything else about Terrifier 2 that you want to talk about? Any other talking points about the movie, or specific scenes, or kills, or themes, or anything in general?
I should really say, like, everything I've said about this, I really wanted to like this movie.
You do like this movie, Nico.
Well, you say that.
I'm just going to keep telling you until it's true.
It's not going to sink.
You do like this movie, Nico.
That's cute.
You do like this movie, Nico.
You
do like this.
I like this movie as much as being stuck in a fucking glass case full of war.
A glass case of emotion.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that you then?
Yes.
Okay. With that being said, we shall move on then to our next segment, and we'll talk about some trivia. As always, we'll start off with the finances of the movie. This film had a budget of, according to IMDb, $250,000, which is tiny for the scale of this movie. You know, and what they created. That's impressive.
Yeah, I must admit, that's pretty
a good chunk of that movie was crowdfunded as well. Like, this is an independent horror movie. They crowdfunded a lot of that money. So, you know, there were literally, so some of the people who died in that clown cafe scene was literally people who paid to be in the movie. and like prizes they'd given away and stuff like that. So that's like some of them aren't actors, some of them are just literally fans of the franchise.
As in, they were like, fucking, I want to be killed by Art the Clown.
Yeah, essentially.
That's fair enough.
At the box office at the time of recording, because this is still getting on a re-release, so it's still in some theaters. This movie has grossed $15.3 million.
Fuck.
That is, there are movies out there that do have a better return to cost. You look at things like Paranormal Activity, which I think is technically the most profitable movie of all time. You look at things like the Blair Witch Project. But in terms of like small independent horrors, to get 15.3 million off of a $250,000 budget, this is incredible. Like absolutely incredible. Anyways, David Howard Thornton, as we said, who obviously plays Art the Clown. We obviously never hear him speak. You do hear him in this movie. Do you want to know who he is?
Who?
He is the voiceover for the Art Crispies cereal commercial during the Clown Cafe scene. That's David Howard Thornton.
Didn't know that.
So yeah, you do hear him.
Cool.
Lauren Lavera, who plays Sienna, is actually trained in martial arts, so she did majority of her own stunts, which is cool. I always like it when actors do some of their own stunts.
Yeah.
As I said, originally this was planned for a limited theatrical release for a single weekend, but it reached the top 10 at the box office on multiple weekends, and so its run ended up lasting many, many weeks. It domestically grossed, as I said, 15.3 million so far on its budget, which is around, I believe, a 6,000% return on investment. Making it the most profitable. It was the most profitable movie of 2022.
Yeah.
So pretty good there. It's a completely independently made production. Money was raised through salvage sources without the aid of the studio. Sorry. Writer and director David Leone created all the special effects himself in order to cut costs. He was able to be uncompromising in his depiction of violence and gore because there was no studios making demands or insisting on cuts. And apparently, they've had people withdraw the funding already for Terrifier 3 because of how violent, and because of the trailer as well. The trailer for Terrifier 3 really upset a lot of people out there on social media, and I don't really understand because
not seen all of it yet.
Because it depicts a child being in danger, essentially.
Oh, okay.
And people out there are really raging that, he's gonna kill a kid, you can't kill a kid. And people are forgetting that, number one, in Terrifier 2, Jonathan is a kid.
Yeah.
And not only that, Terrifier, Art the Clown isn't from the Terrifier franchise, he's from All Hallows Eve. And if you've watched All Hallows Eve, he kills 2 children in All Hallows Eve.
Yeah.
So, and it's not like kids haven't been fucking killed in horror movies before. I don't really get why people are so outraged.
The best fucking killers are the ones that'll not spare anyone.
We've talked about it multiple times though today. He's one of your favorites. Freddy fucking Krueger is a fucking child molester and child murderer.
He's a pedo fucking killer.
Yeah. So I don't.
He's taking revenge on the folk that set him alight for fucking raping their kids, which I understand why they did that.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyways. Going off on a tangent, writer and director Damien Leone has denied any allegations of misogyny that he got after making Terrifier, a topic that we did bring up, actually. Yeah. He claims to be, he was raised by women who taught him to love horror movies. He spends a lot of time investing in the character of Sienna for Terrifier 2 because he wants the audience to root for her, not for Art the Clown. However, he also stated that audience often subconsciously identifies with the killer, and that it's virtually impossible to create something in the 2020s that doesn't offend anyone. I think as well, people went on about the misogyny in the first one and being like, oh, it's just violence against women, despite the fact that there were, I think, I don't, and let's, like, we did talk about it briefly when we did Terrifier, and that, the male kills in that movies they were all over
and dusted very quickly.
Yeah.
It's not torturing though. But it's like, in this one, again, it's a female that's the main torture one.
Yeah. And the male, I think there's only actually one male kill in this movie.
Which would be
Oh no,
no,
I'm telling you
There's-
absolute fibs.
but
There's
both-
3.
What's the third one?
Brooke's boyfriend who gets stabbed in the dick.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
So there's the morgue doctor, the shop worker, and Brooke's boyfriend, and they're all.
And the guy in the fucking laundrette.
Oh yeah, you're right. So 4. I mean that's an off.
All of them are very quick kills, though.
The store clerk's not a quick kill. That's a whole set piece. The morgue doctor's the entire opening of the film. They're not quick kills.
No, but they're quick compared to what the fucking bedroom dame gets. I want to see him do something like that to a male.
No, but you get what I'm saying. Like they definitely spend more time on the male kills in this one.
Oh, they do it now compared to the last one.
I was never.
I want him to make the male kill the main kill in it.
Yeah, but I don't think. I think to accuse them of misogyny is wide of the mark.
Oh yeah, but I'm saying prove it wrong then. Get a male kill in there that everybody is.
I think one of the other.
It's easier to get a reaction.
But they did also kind of. But they did also kind of. Thinking it because in the first kill, I think one of the criticisms not only about the violence being more against women, but was the fact that one of them was, vagina first, for lack of a better term. He does kill someone by stabbing them repeatedly in the dick in this film.
Yeah.
True. So anyways,
swings and
roundabouts, sticks and pussies. What? The film's effects in this movie are 99% practical. Damien Leone did use digital effects a couple of times.
How long till you actually noticed me doing this?
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I noticed. In the bedroom kill scene, he digitally put the actress's real eyeball on the dummy, so when she wakes up, the eye opens. So that the eye, when she wakes up, when the mum comes in, that's a digital effect. So there's a couple of instances like that in the movie, but this is largely, practical effects, which, I think most horror fans prefer, don't they?
Well, that digital effect works well, because I never noticed it was a digital effect.
Yeah, there you go. And the last piece of trivia I have is the piece I said earlier about the acid. So that's it for trivia for me, Nico. Any trivia from you?
No.
No? Okay, with that being said then,
It touched on classic horror movies and the black and white stuff. How's that?
There you go. We shall move on then to our final segment.
I've got another bit of trivia. Chris Jericho was a wrestler.
Oh, is he? Let's do the ratings and the reviews. Cool. As always, we will start off with the critics' scores. IMDb scored this a 6.1 out of 10. Metacritic has this at a 5.9. Nico, what do you think the Rotten Tomatoes critics and the Rotten Tomatoes audience would score this movie?
6.5 and 7.
The Rotten Tomatoes critics have this at 86% fresh, with the Rotten Tomatoes audience having this at 80% fresh. So they love it. Critics' consensus, Terrifier 2 outdoes the original in every way, which makes it bad news for the squeamish, but a bloody good time for genre enthusiasts. In the audience opinion, hardcore slasher fans may wonder why Terrifier 2's gore was so heavily hyped, but they'll also enjoy the old school horror in Art the Clown's second act. So I think you're kind of on your own a little bit with some of your opinions here, Nico, because it looks like it's pretty well liked.
That's fair enough, but everyone's entitled to their opinion.
Yeah. As always, we throw it out to you guys, our followers, our listeners, our viewers, and asking for your opinions on the episodes, on the movies, that we cover. So, friend of the show, Kate Lamp, gives this a 7.5. Art the Clown has become a favourite for me, and this movie made me both cringe and laugh. The effects were great, but it ran a little long. I think that's fair. Andrew Connor says, find it better than the first one, but still not great. The idea of art and his look is interesting, but there's just too much nastiness in it for me personally. I think that's the thing. When you're doing a movie that's so violent and so gory, it is going to be polarizing, because some people just don't like that in their horror films.
Yeah.
Our friend Candy from the House of Screams Horror podcast, check out her episode that she was on last week, doing Maniac. She says, engaging, fun, gory, a nice hot injection that the horror genre needs, a return to form, if you will. 10 out of 10. Candy loves it.
She's gonna hate me then.
Drunk with Buds podcast gives it an 8.5. I loved it, but there are parts that I wish weren't in it, and it ran a little longer than necessary. The movie looked, I really enjoyed most of it, but I also felt things got overly complicated and overstuffed, especially when compared to how lean and simple the first one was. Wolflax, as I like Sienna and Art, is a fun villain to watch, but it reached a point where the gore was just so over the top I was laughing, and they had all that stuff with Sienna's dad's sketch book, and then had predictions in it which didn't really go anywhere. Moonlit Writing says a sad 3. Really wanted to love it, but for me, it had so many flaws. T1 is a better movie by far. I remember you getting really raging in the Terrifier episode because I kept referring to this as T2.
There's only one T2.
Yeah, Terrifier 2.
Yeah, Terminator 2, correct? Yeah.
Alex Ryan says, I think Terrifier...
Are you genuinely going to compare Terminator 2 and Terrifier 2? Because I know which one's the fucking better movie.
I'd rather watch...
I know which one is...
Don't
you dare.
I'd rather watch Terrifier 2.
God, no. Liar.
I don't think
Liar.
Is this Child's Play all over again? Alex Ryan says, I think Terrifier 2 is a great throwback to classic slashers, pumped with incredibly made gore. Although the story lacks some structure and cohesion, I don't necessarily put it against it as an updated take on simple slashers. Art is iconic, 8.5 out of 10. And finally, I've left him until last, Wren. Wren, immediately when I put out that we were doing this show, immediately refused to come back on. He did not want to talk about this movie.
Why is that?
He doesn't refuse to come back on the show. He just refuses to come back on to talk about anything to do with Terrifier.
For this one.
But he did, of course, leave us his thoughts on the movie. He says, well, ... It certainly expanded on the lack of the plot from the first one, but way overstays its welcome with a 2.5-hour runtime. Many of the gore scenes are dragged out, which ends up ruining their effectiveness, and the Clown Cafe song makes me wish Art would stab my ears. 3 out of 10. I love the Clown Cafe song. I'm totally splicing it in this episode.
I 100% agree with that.
Anyways, thank you to everyone who dropped in your opinions, your thoughts, and your scores. We really appreciate it. Overall, you guys scored this movie a 6.5 out of 10. And that just leaves, Nico, me and you, on a scale of 0 to 10, what would you rate Terrifier 2?
This is my last ever episode, thanks to this. I'll give it a 4. I'm not quite bad as a 3, but I'll give it a 4.
So
exact same reasons. It's too drawn out, too much stuff not fucking explained. They've over-exaggerated stuff. The main female in it, that's the heroine, is just fucking shite. It's just, I really wanted to like this, but nah. No, not for me.
So,
it's a 4 out of 10.
You think it's worse than Terrifier?
Yes.
Okay, because you gave Terrifier a 5.
Yeah, but I genuinely do think the second one is worse.
Wow.
Because I think they've overcompensated for all the stuff that I thought was wrong with the first one and lost some of that appeal of the first one, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you're entitled to your wrong opinion, but listen, well, I love this movie, and
I know you do.
I loved Terrifier. I still love Terrifier, but I scored it because I knew of its flaws. I don't think Terrifier 2 is a perfect movie, but I'm willing to forgive the flaws, or some of the flaws, simply because of how good a time this movie is. This movie...
It's drawn out to fuck.
Excuse me, Nico. I let you get through your score and your reasoning.
Sorry.
Rude.
Just asking a question.
I'm willing to forgive many of the flaws because I have such a good time and so much fun with so many different aspects of this movie. I completely disagree with you about your criticisms of Art and his expressions and everything else. I think Art in this movie is so much meaner. He's so much more creative. I think overall this movie is so much more creative. The effects in this movie are better. I think that we've got better actors. I think we've got better characters. We care more about the people who are on the screen. The deaths are really messed up and creative. And for me, realistically, the only thing that I would be critical of is, and like a lot of people have said, is I do think it's on the long side. I think it's too long. I think we should have cut it down. But it's like, it's nice. We've got a couple of familiar faces in there we've already talked about, like Felissa Rose and Chris Jericho. It's still a fun time seeing it all sort of folding on screen. I just have so much fun with this movie. I think it's great, and I think it's a 9 out of 10.
A 9.
Yep.
Okay. I think you just love drunk with it, to be honest.
I would say...
I think it's your new love. That's why you're that high on it.
I mean, Terrifier was my new love, and I gave it a 6.5.
Yeah, but nah. This is definitely not a 9 out of 10, in my opinion.
Well, obviously, you scored at 4.
Yeah, I don't even think it's an average movie. I think it's below average. That's why you put a 9. I'm surprised.
We are 5 points apart in this movie, which, you know, we often have very differing opinions, but normally our scores generally come together. There's only been a couple of movies that have had like such a big disparity in between our scores.
Ghost in the Shell and fucking Doctor. Oh, sorry.
No,
Child's
Play 2 isn't. I still only gave Child's Play, sorry, a 5.
Really?
Yeah. This was what I always was saying. This is... Oh my god, if you completely misunderstood the entire route. I never, ever, ever, ever claimed that Child's Play was a great film. I
remember that. I just said that it was
people...
just more of a difference.
I said that people... were overly hated on it, and it was better than people gave it credit for. I still think it's an average film.
Yeah, but I just think that's well below. But I genuinely thought you gave it more for some reason.
No, and the movies that we've had real disagreement on, the Blair Witch Project. Yeah, you gave that a 2.
You love the marketing campaign, I know.
You gave it a 2, and I gave it an 8.
Because you love the marketing campaign.
We really disagreed, and we're not talking about that. We really disagreed on Censor. And you gave Censor a 2, and I gave it a 7.5. You weren't on for the episode, but you gave our score afterwards. We really disagreed on Insidious.
Yeah.
You gave that a 2, and I gave that a 7. And I think Innocent Blood, I think, is the other thing we had a big disagreement on. I gave that a 1.
I was high, you were low.
I gave that a 1.5, and you gave that a 6. So yeah, even though we often disagree, we're never usually too far apart in our rankings. So Terrifier 2 is definitely one of the ones. Overall, given our scores, our listener scores, and the critic scores, Terrifier 2 gets an average rating of 6.9 out of 10. And it puts it in 47th place of the now 90 movies we've covered on the show. It is one place above, it's one place above Event Horizon.
Yeah.
And one place below Knock at the Cabin.
Both better movies.
They're both really good movies, and they're both movies we scored very, very highly. I would probably watch Event Horizon over Terrifier 2.
Both of them I'd watch over Terrifier 2.
I wouldn't watch Knock at the Cabin over Terrifier 2.
So what else? What's the shittest one next to that?
What, below it?
Yeah. Or above it, actually. What's the shittest one above it?
I'll run through like the 5 or 6 movies that are above it. So, what is it? We're in 47. So in 41st place is Stud of Echoes.
Yeah.
42nd place is Doctor Sleep.
Yeah.
I'd rather watch Terrifier 2 than Doctor Sleep.
Fuck off. Right, next.
Slither.
Yeah.
Krampus.
I'd rather... They've not had anything I would rather watch than this.
Megan. And then Knock at the Cabin. And then the few movies that are below it, Event Horizon, House of a Thousand Corpses.
That's a better
movie. The Special.
That's a better movie.
The Cottage.
That was funny, yeah.
The Faculty.
100%. 100% rather watch The Faculty.
Hocus Pocus.
Yep.
So that's what it's in and around. Listen.
Okay, so yeah, it's all of those I would rather watch.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's that bad. I would rather watch Ghost in a Shell.
But you rated Child's Play you rated a 2, and you've rated Terrifier 2 a 4. So are you saying you want to
But
up your
but
Child's Play
the
rating?
reason that this got a better score was the special effects. The special effects carried it.
If you say so. What you really want to do, is raise your Child's Play score, but you'll get a chance to do that in like 6 episodes time. So
I'd rather lower this one to compare it, but genuinely the special effects in this were great, I thought.
well, I want to, just for a bit of context, I'll give you the scores for Terrifier as well in comparison. So I gave Terrifier a 6.5, I gave this a 9, you gave Terrifier a 5, scored this a 2. The audience scored Terrifier a 6.8 and gave this a 6.5. IMDb has Terrifier at a 5.6 and the sequel at a 6.1, so it's an increase. There is no Metacritic score for Terrifier, but it's got a 5.9 for the sequel, excuse me. And both the Rotten Tomatoes critics and audience are much higher. They're both in the mid-50s for Terrifier and 80 plus for Terrifier 2.
Yeah. But no, I genuinely think it's worth. Okay. And the audience agree.
They agree. They still think it's a better fucking film than you do.
True, but
well,
can't win them all.
You know you can't, can you? Because you've clearly lost this one. Anyways,
I can easily change it on this one.
No, it's done now. That's it. It's done. See, this is what happens when I can.
In a while, I could soon change scores. Don't worry.
You fill your boots, so can I. I will give this a perfect 10. I will make this the only fucking perfect 10 I ever give out on the show, just out of spite, Nico. Just out of spite.
But you even said it's not a perfect 10 movie because it's got things wrong with it.
I can change it.
You'd go against. Against your own opinion.
I have control of the leaderboard.
But you'd go against your own opinion.
This is why you
should condemning every score you've ever done.
This is why. This is why you should. You should do more on the show. You could. You could have control like I do.
I got a really itchy nose. Right there.
Anyways.
That's how he got that dot. He's got an itchy nose.
Anyways, that is going to do it for this week's episode. It's been an episode, Nico.
It has.
It's good to see that normal service has been resumed and we've returned with us vehemently disagreeing with each other.
I can't wait for the next one.
I can't wait for the next one because next week on the show, tonally, I'm almost gutted that we didn't do the double bill because that would have just been so bizarre.
Yeah.
Next week on the show, although if you're watching this live, we will be recording and broadcasting this tomorrow night. But up next on the show, we are going in a totally different direction. It is a movie, again, that I've covered on a mini-sode when it was first released. We're talking about Hocus Pocus 2, which, Nico, was your Halloween pick.
Yep, and even better, I have not heard your mini-episode on it.
Oh, so you have no idea where I'm going with that. Yep. I'm going to have to re-listen to it because I've forgotten what the fuck I said.
No, don't re-listen to it. Just don't re-listen to it. What you should do is do a whole new one, and we'll see.
And then afterwards.
That'd be so funny.
So yeah, anyways, that's...
See if you thought it's better or worse.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, that's what's coming up next on the show. And then after that, we will be heading towards Christmas season very soon. We'll be doing my Halloween pick after that. And then we'll be heading into Christmas season. So, Nico, I need you to pick your Christmas film.
I can do that.
So if you can do that by tomorrow, Nico, so that we can make our announcements. And also tomorrow, I need your Maniac score.
Yes.
So
I can do that too.
That is what's coming up on the show. Don't forget, if you would like to support this podcast, you can do so on @Damned Podcast. We're on Facebook and Instagram at Pod of the Damned. You can email us at podofthedamned@gmail.com, and you can subscribe to us on Patreon, patreon.com/Pod of the Damned. That's twice, Nico. It's twice I didn't fuck it up. We've got a kitty cat.
I even pulled Chia into it to put you off, and it didn't work.
It didn't work. See, I'm getting good at this shit. Anyways, if we need to re-record the intro for this episode, Nico, we can do it before we start recording tomorrow. Because I need to go away and do that. But thank you for joining me once again. Thank you. Welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks for having me back again.
Of course. And thank you to everyone for downloading.
I'm amazed you're having me back tomorrow.
I'm amazed I had you back after episode 1, to be honest. fucking starting off with Doctor Sleep. I was like, fuck you, you cunt.
Fucking hell. Love
but
that movie.
it's just, I know you do. But anyways, thank you to all of our listeners and viewers for downloading and watching this episode. We really appreciate you. And until next week on Pod of the Damned, just remember, you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't.